Hey guys, Ben with Shine Bright Auto Solutions, and I've got the one and only Michael Hill here. He is co-founder and chemist behind the revolutionary brand CCI or Ceramic Coating Inc. What makes CCI Advanced Ceramic Coating the best?
So my background is I've been dealing with surface coating technology for around 18 years now. I work with ATI Labs, been doing that, and we do a lot of OEM brand surface coating technology with either stuff they put on top of the paint. We test out a lot of their clear coats and that type of stuff. And so when I got heavily into detailing, I had all that background and knowledge of what the clear coats consist of, and I'm one of those data-driven people. So when I started using a lot of these products, I'm like, well, let's see if it'll actually do what they're promoting that would do, and got into testing and found out that a lot of the sales pitches you were getting are not actually reality of what they are capable of. I started developing my own products and doing more and more testing, and started working with a lot of the manufacturers for these ceramic coatings, and kept getting basically the thing is good enough. And I know there's a lot more technology to keep getting better and better. And so I just took it upon myself and met up with my business partner, Brian Crosby, and said, hey, let's go out there and make the best products we can possibly make. So we started developing products, and we started pulling a lot of stuff from the medical field, which has much purer products, much better quality, that type of stuff from the industry. And instead of taking and making everything fluid suspension, which you have to use a lot of that bottle to basically just be fluid suspension, has no working capabilities or anything like that, we made a sediment suspension coating, which is what Advanced and Revolution both are, which means you don't have to put 40% of the bottle to hold all the solids and things like that, and you get to put a lot of different quality of products in there as well to perform better. So if we're talking about Advanced, that is a sediment suspension coating, and so you do have to shake that up really well, which as a rolling joke, if it says CCI on there, shake the fool out of it. But that gives us, like I said, you get a lot better quality of materials in that. So that's one of the main differences with CCI. And another big thing about us is the rating we put on these is worst case scenario. So we don't say, hey, if you keep it under 60 degrees in the garage, you drive it 2,000 miles a year, you're going to hit this mark. The 3 to 5 years we put on Advanced is worst case scenario. It sits outside, it's the mom van, it gets washed by the kids at the local fundraiser, that type of stuff. Yep. That performance is still going to be there in that amount of time. So that's kind of the big thing with CCI is we basically under promise and over deliver on all of our products, which at the end of the day, detailers like yourself that run a business, CCI doesn't have to deal with a mad customer when they come back. We're like, hey, something that happened or something. So we want to, being a detailer myself, we want to provide a product that says, hey, you can stand behind this. When it leaves the door here, it's going to perform for what you're saying it's going to, and give you guys peace of mind. Because your customers being happy and seeing the performance of this is what makes you money. And then if you're making great money, then you come and buy more products from us. So it's a win-win from us. And our main motto with CCI is, in God we trust, all others must provide data. So we're very transparent on, here's what our performance will do, here's what our products are going to go do when you put them on a customer's vehicle. And so that way, like I said, you have the peace of mind, you have the understanding which you can pass on to your customers and saying, hey, this is why we use this product. We know the science behind it, we know the performance on it, and you just have a great product that you can trust. And even if you're not a CCI branded facility, and even if it's your house brand, hey, what we're putting on here is going to perform. It's going to do what we promise it's going to do, right, and your customer's going to be happy with that.
Right. I've definitely noticed, especially for installers, guys, not going to say any other brands, but a lot of times, like Michael said, if you're installing it, it's your customer, and if your installation fails, not because of what you guys did, but because of the product you're using, they're not mad at the brand that you put on. They're mad at you. So you need to be, double checking and making sure the product that you're putting on is going to hold up to what it says it's going to do, because you're the one that is holding the bag at the end of the day. A good question is, how long will this coating last before it needs to be reapplied?
Yeah, so that kind of goes back into the year ratings we put on things is, like Advanced is 3 to 5 years. So if it's just beat on, never washed. And like I said, your kids, the neighborhood kids, watch it with a sponge they dropped and play, football with in the yard. You're still going to hit that mile marker of what was promised on the bottle. Now, if you do take great care of it, you do pamper it, you wash it, you put amp on it twice a year, bring it back to you guys for maintenance, yearly or bi-yearly, then you're going to get extremely much longer time out of it. So, I mean, a lot of that's just kind of depending on how it's taken care of, the maintenance, if they're bringing it to somebody that does proper washes on it and can bolster the coating and things like that. So, I mean, the big misconception with ceramic coatings is that I've got it on there, I don't need to take care of it, I don't need to do anything. You're just basically putting a sacrificial layer on the outside that helps preserve that paint, that helps it, fight off the elements, that helps it survive, bird droppings and things like that, and instead of it just being your bare paint. So, I mean, all ceramic coatings are a sacrificial layer before it actually gets in, to the paint system itself. As years go by, paint systems keep getting thinner and thinner and thinner, so that becomes even more of an importance to have something on top of the paint to protect it from that, because the old school stuff, like in the 70s and 80s, you had so much paint on there you could correct it multiple times and do this stuff. And now on your newer stuff, your 2025s and the 2026s starting to come out, the paint is so thin you may have one time to do a full correction on it, and that's all that's there for you to actually do the work on. So this gives you, like I said, it gives you that sacrificial layer and the protection versus the elements to keep those new paint systems in good working order.
Right. And would you say that this is a product that can protect the vehicle against oxidation, love swirls, light scratching, bird droppings, bug guts, things like that?
Oh, absolutely. So I mean, basically, you're putting this thin layer on there that will absorb all the damage. It's not going to stock a rock chip or something like that will basically flake off the entire paint system. But all your small stuff, like your swirls and things that come in just from washing. I mean, those are going to happen from friction. Your chemicals that hit it, your bugs and things like that. That coating is going to take the brunt of that damage, besides it getting down to your paint system. So that's what that's meant for, is to be the ceramic coating that's taking all the damage, that's taking the friction marks, that's taking the bug guts, the bird droppings and things like that. Now, that being said, if you leave this stuff on there to continuously just, if you've got bird droppings and you're sitting here in Georgia and it sits on your car for 2 months, you're eventually going to start doing degrading, but the damage that's going to be done is going to be extremely minute compared to what it would do to your paint system, without the coating on it.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to tell my clients is it's not magic in a bottle, it's science, right? So, there has to be reasonable expectations that you can expect out of something. What kind of maintenance should a customer do after their vehicle's been ceramic coated?
So just, you want to keep your vehicle, fairly clean. You don't want to just let a lot of stuff build up on it over time. Like I said, during the summertime, we go to Florida multiple times and you get love bugs on there, which are extremely, extremely acidic. If you get stuff like that on your vehicle or you get bird droppings on it, make sure to get that stuff off as soon as you can. And that's where, coated or not coated, you don't want to let that stuff sit. So I would bring it back to a shop like yours and let, maybe twice a year, at least I'd say a minimum of once a year, bring it back where the professionals can look over it and say, hey, this is performing great, and kind of debride the coating, which means like a chemical wash to pull everything out of the coating to keep its performance where it needs to be. And the better, if you do it at home using a pH neutral soap that doesn't have a lot of chemicals or waxes or shine enhancers or any of that stuff to build up on your vehicle. Because once that stuff builds up, the properties that it's going to take is whatever's on the top. So if you've got a product that has a wax in it or something like that, then that's what's going to be sitting on top. So if you go and do a wax and shine car wash on it, you're like, it's just not beating. And the water performance, that's because now it's taking the properties of that wax or sealant or whatever you spray on there for a quick detail or any of that type of stuff.
Yeah, you had a good layer of protection and you threw something less than on top of that. So
right.
And what would you say to somebody that's kind of on the fence of getting a ceramic coating, and investing into that? What would you kind of say to maybe convince them of why it makes sense for their vehicle?
So like I said, you're basically adding a sacrificial layer to take damage, instead of your paint system on your vehicle. You're adding this, and you're of course going to get all the great benefits of enhanced gloss, enhanced cleaning ability. So when you go to wash it, it's not going to be a 3-hour experience unless you're like me and I just like to kind of sit out there and do my thing for that. But it's going to be much easier to clean. It's going to be much easier to maintain. When you go to wash it, it's not going to get a lot of stuff caked up on it as it normally will without protection. And like I said, you're going to enhance the look of the vehicle. It will also help against UV resistance to keep your paint from fading out, chemical resistance, all those things right there to help keep it looking great for a longer amount of time. You're probably going to double or triple the life expectancy of your paint system by having a really good ceramic coat on there.
Yeah, I mean, with how expensive vehicles have gotten, double or tripling the life expectancy of your paint system is that's kind of a winner right there.
Oh, absolutely. And you can even take it and look. So now, just to give you an idea of how well this does maintain your vehicle, now even your insurance companies see that as a added protection layer to your vehicle. So like if you have an accident or something like that, they will pay to get the ceramic coating replaced. Why? Because that's protecting the vehicle and basically protecting the asset that you're paying money to insure. Yeah, so even companies like that see how big of a benefit that is, and that's when they're like, okay, this is a value adder to the vehicle because it does protect it and keep it looking good.
Yeah, absolutely. And here at Shine Bright, we've worked closely with several insurance companies, getting their vehicle back to pre-loss condition that had ceramic coating or paint protection film already installed. So as installers, you guys should make sure that you're properly documenting the work that you're doing, whether it's a coating or PPF, and putting that on the Carfax. So let's get a little bit more into like some of the personal things about you, Michael. What's kind of been the biggest challenge you've faced when bringing this product line to market?
The biggest thing is getting over sales pitches. All these companies will have a sales pitch, and then you ask them to back it up, and there's no data to look at. When you go to big events like Mobile Tech, you go to SEMA and things like that, a lot of the claims and things like that are out there are very unrealistic. But even when I got into detailing first, even with the background and knowledge that I have, you're like, man, this is going to do all this stuff. And then you actually go and look at the material that's in there. You're like, okay, well, that's impossible for that to be able to do these things. But for your detailers out there that don't, have a scientific background, don't have a lab background, things like that, you're going to like, oh man, this company is promising all these things, and you're going to tell your customers, hey, this is how this is going to perform. And like I said, when that customer comes back and like, somebody lit my car on fire and it actually damaged it, and there's companies out there that's their advertisement, they're lighting cars on fire and doing this stuff right there, but that's what that customer expects. Yeah. So you just actually having realistic expectation of what this product going to do, how it's going to do it, and basically fighting past other companies out there, their sales pitch. Right. Because you have to contend with that, because people will see that on TV or see that on an ad, and that's their expectancy of it, of going, hey, if I put this on there, I can drive through wildfires and my car's going to be fine because I've got this coating on there. So I mean, that's the biggest challenge is being a part of CCI is going against other people's claims and sales pitches. That's why we're so data driven, saying, hey, here's what ours is going to do. It's not going to be flame retardant. It's not going to keep your vehicle bulletproof, or you never have to wash the vehicle again, or any of that type of stuff. We try to set realistic expectations for somebody, and then when we do our trainings, when we talk to people, even when they come in, when I do personally do vehicles, hey, here's what this is going to do. You're still required to maintain the vehicle. You're still required to to take care of it. If you light it on fire, you're probably going to have damage to it. You can't hit it with a hammer. It's not going to protect you against rock chips. It will help a little bit, but it's a resistant coating. It's not a proof. Right. And that's kind of the biggest thing. And I will tell people is like, this will enhance everything on your paint system, but it's not going to make it proof of any of that stuff. Anything that's neglected, no matter how well it's coated and protected, if it's neglected and not taken care of, it's still going to fail at some point in time.
Right. It's kind of like the old Apple saying where it's water resistant, not waterproof.
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And back to what I was saying, where it's like, hey guys, this is not magic in a bottle. This is science, and there is data that Michael and CCI have that proves that it works. But probably don't go and hit it with a 9mm or a hammer, because it's science. It's not magic.
I mean, I would love to say, hey, you can coat it with this right here, and you can catch it on fire and do all this stuff. But until I hit that point of actually being able to make that, then right now that's not normally the case where stuff is.
I gotcha. So tell me a little bit about how you got into the automotive industry.
So actually, my first job was working for Ford Motor Company. I worked there for them while I was going through college, and have always just been crazily into cars. Like my first memories are getting Matchbox cars and going to car shows, and I've just cars have just been a way of life for me since I can remember. And I just basically took that love for cars and worked for a lot of tier 1 automotives and doing that type of stuff, and got into detailing I guess about 20 years ago. And what actually got me into detailing is I did my own cars for a while, and then friends were like, hey man, what do you charge me to do this? And then doing a lot of track days and stuff on the for like the SCCA and things like that. Everybody's like, man, you've always got the best looking car here. It just shines and doesn't like a track car. And so these guys started paying me money to do this. And so I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to get involved into this type of stuff, let me figure out, okay, there's science behind everything. I'm going, okay, now let's get into that. And the lab that I work at, I've been working there for around 15 years now. We deal with, like I said, automotive surface technology.
Right.
So that even poured fuel on the fire even more of going, okay, now I have all this equipment that most people don't have access to. Now I can test these coatings. Yeah. You say it's going to do this, we can put it on these machines and will tell me, exactly the way it goes. And, I worked for a lot of other companies and did, consultant work for them, and knew that I could do something better. And so just went into saying, hey, we can do it better. I can prove that. And so that's how we got into, basically starting this company and moving forward with that, of saying, hey, let's put our money where our mouth is and say, this is what it's going to do. Here's the data to back it up.
Right. No, it makes a ton of sense. I feel like a lot of people in this industry start out humble beginnings as a car enthusiast, motorcycle enthusiast, whatever, and they realize they have a knack and a joy for making things look tip-top shape, right? So tell me a little bit, like, what's the most rewarding thing about seeing customers utilizing the CCI lineup?
So I love working with anybody in the detailing industry, and working with us, looks like a new detailer. And they come in to one of our classes, or I go and work with them personally, and they get that first customer that comes back. It's like, man, this thing looks better than new. They're excited. Their customers are excited. So that's the most rewarding thing to me. It's not about making big sales numbers on our side, but it's about seeing the people that you help in the industry, go out and use your product, or a customer's experience with, a detailer has done their vehicle. Like, man, this stuff looks amazing. And just seeing the feedback from people you're working with. And I put a lot into this industry to try to help people grow. My daily phone calls, about 30 to 40 different detailers call me every day. Hey, I've got a question, Michael. What do I need to do on this? And even if they're not using our products, it's still nice to help these people along and say, hey, here's what you do, because the better and more educated we can make this industry, the better for us all. So I mean, that's kind of my goal with CCI and with doing what I do. Is, like I said, I love to see this industry grow. I love helping people and educating and trying to get over the sales pitch type of things. And like I said, that's the most rewarding thing to me, is seeing a new guy, or even somebody that's been doing this for 20 years. Like, man, I finally got around to using your product, and we love it, or it does all the things that you say it will. And like for our top of the line coating Revolution, I'm like, man, it went on great. The car looks great. And I was like, wait till you get it back for your first wash. And then, I was like, that's what I'm excited about. But yeah, like I said, just giving back to this industry, giving back to, to all the detailers and things like that. That's the most rewarding thing to me.
Yeah, I got you. So, kind of support the industry and let it grow, and then you'll benefit as an individual. That's something that absolutely. I truly believe in, because, all things considered, the automotive restyling and protection industry is a relatively new one. And so being ethical in it and doing what you say you're going to do and, putting out excellent work benefits everybody, whether it's the shop down the road, you, or in the next city over, And so I think that that's a really important thing all installers and manufacturers should be considering. So where do you see ceramic coating and the industry as a whole going in the next few years?
Technology is evolving extremely quickly. I can make a new coating, and then 6 months from now, I'll find a new raw material that does something even crazier. So, it just depends on how you look at it as a company. If you're in the mindset, which, unfortunately a lot of companies are in this industry, this is good enough, then you're gonna stay, well, this company is just good enough. So, I always try to stay on the bleeding edge of technology, try to do things. I enjoy sitting around in the lab and making new stuff and, just trying to keep furthering the products. There's a couple of products that we have that I make rolling changes on for the betterment of them. And I don't go out and announcing, hey, this is version 2, this is version 12, this is, an additive that will make this even better. So we try to, like I said, stay on the rolling edge of technology and moving forward. I think ceramic coatings, if you look at where they started out, when I started, doing stuff, I used C-course, and it was an absolute nightmare to put on. You had to do small little squares, and it was just a panic-inducing thing now. And now you've got, coatings like advanced and things like that. They're just much easier to put on. You can put them on everything on the vehicle instead of having a trim, a wheel, a glass. You've got 14 different coatings. Now you've got this one coating that can do it all. And I just think, as it moves forward, they'll keep getting better, and they'll keep getting better and easier for the installer to do better and better work with. So, like I said, I'm really excited to see how it grows, but a lot of that's going to tie back into your industry leaders who are out there of how much innovation they're pushing, how much technology, they're investing in to keep growing. But yeah, this industry, if you look, the detailing stuff, and especially ceramic coatings, that hasn't been around for a long time. If you just look where it started to where it is now, it's a pretty massive jump in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a lot about what do the installers and their clients demand out of the products, right? And I do think you guys are on the forefront of that. I've made several suggestions to Brian, and he's been like, that's a fantastic idea. We'll get started on that. And so I think being able to work with a company that actually listens to their installers is a huge win, unlike some of the larger corporations that will just brush you off their shoulder because they run by the good enough mindset. And I'm glad you brought that up, because I always make a joke with all my guys where it's like, we're not good enough detailing. We're Shine Bright Auto Solutions, right? It's not good enough.
Right.
So, yeah, well, I really appreciate you taking the time to run through these questions, and I'm really excited to work closely with you as we knock out your personal truck. That's going to be an awesome learning experience for us here at Shine Bright, and I'm sure you're going to show us a plethora of things that we didn't even know were out there. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And you guys come see these guys. These guys are great. They've worked with me a ton, and like I said, these guys are constantly after knowledge and improving and getting better. And like I said, I'm bringing my personal vehicle here to work with them on there, so that's just about as much as you can say on that. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.